fellow friends, and welcome back to Cinephile Saturday. We are going through the Alien franchise, and the next up is Prometheus, the prequel. And I think when the movie was released, I think the tagline was "The Beast is Cooked." I think the tag that was for Ridley Scott. That was the different direction he was going in. So we'll get into all that. But Anthony, will you start us off with an introduction?
Hi, yeah, I'm Anthony Self. I'm a member of the pagechewing.com group. I have a YouTube channel called Horrible, where I play indie horror games, and I have a couple of books on Amazon. One's a dystopian novel called Birthday Treat, and the other is a collection of short horror stories called Catbox. You've got there.
Yeah. And Susanna.
Hello, my name is Susanna and I. I am a writer of weird fantasy or weird mythology, let's put it this way. And I run a YouTube channel called Den of the Weird, where I talk about books and movies and weird stuff in general.
So what is everyone? Because over the years I've had a weird relationship with this movie. I've gone from thinking it was okay to hating it to kind of somewhat liking it and appreciating it to watching it again. I'm more on the dislike side. I think this last time. What did you get? How do you both feel about it?
Oh, it was so much worse than I remember. I honestly, if it wasn't for this conversation, I would have stopped. I was in pain. It was painful to watch. Oh, so
I'm going to defend it then. I think I'm going to be the defender of Prometheus. I will agree with you, Steve. I had the same thing when I first watched it. I kind of came away a little bit disappointed. It percolated a little bit in my brain. I rewatched it. And I actually thought, you know what, I can see what's happening here. I can kind of see that they're veering away from the xenomorphs kind of thing. They're going to try to explain the engineers, and that in itself comes with some problems, but ultimately as well, it kind of introduces new aspects to the franchise, which I think was dearly needed. And I think with what director Ridley Scott was attempting to do, was kind of explaining the timeline of the xenomorphs, how they came about, the engineers, which really is what Prometheus is all about. It's about their origins. But then that also kind of, it's like the kind of old age thing of, when you see like a spooky movie, like the first time you see A Nightmare on Elm Street and you have this kind of disfigured, mysterious figure, Freddy Krueger, and we know a little bit about his backstory, but you don't know too much. And then by the time you get to like the 7th or 8th or 9th version of the film, they have to kind of explain a lot of stuff, which kind of dispels the whole mystery about that thing. And I think that's ultimately what Prometheus suffers from. It's that thing of you know, in the first Alien film, you see the space jockey, you see the derelict spaceship, you don't know what these things are. They are, inverted commas, alien. And then when you try to explain that, it kind of loses its mysticism in a kind of respect. So there is that, but it does give us David, the new sort of antagonist type of android to the series. So,
well, I only have three good things to say about the movie, so I'm just gonna get them out, and then everything else is just gonna be around. No, three good things: amazing visuals, fantastic cinematography throughout. Great cast. I mean, the actors did a very good job. I mean, the best they could with the roles they had. I have no complaints there. And one very good bit of dialogue, that is when David is talking to, I forget his name, I don't even know what sort of scientist he was, about why the engineers created them, or why humans created androids. And he goes and says, because we could. And I really enjoyed that bit of interaction between them. Everything else, I had issues with. It's just so many.
Like you said, Anthony, I think the franchise really needed an injection of new ideas and something to kind of expand the world without just focusing so much on the xenomorph itself, like the lore, kind of adding to it and adding. But I think the idea, I like the idea of it, like to have this kind of this military installation with the black goo and this other stuff. I think all that's really, I think I like that, but my biggest complaint about this one is the characters. They all have the same sense of humor. I think it was because it was written around the time that Marvel was really rolling. So all the characters had that kind of snarky, like comebacks, and everyone had funny things to say, or, everyone was a little bit over the top. And so I think the time period that this was written, and I think everyone was trying to kind of craft their stories around, like, kind of like that was the thing. And, but I think all the actors did a great job. I just think some of the dialogue is really kind of like at the end when Wayland is there and he's about to go into the spacecraft, and she, Charlize Theron's character tells him, father. That's like really on the nose. Like it's like, I don't know. There's little things like that just seemed a little bit like Holloway. Why was he so disappointed when they went into the ship and they found the vases and the goo? And I mean, they found a severed head. I mean, why is he? I don't understand why he's so distraught over that. They found it's there.
There's a lot of characters here. I think this is probably the first film that had so many unlikable characters, and unlikable characters in the way that some stupid decisions were made. There was unlikable characters for the dialogue that they were coming out with. The two of my favourites were the kind of the Brett and Parker of this one, Milburn and Fifield. And ultimately, they're the ones that, you could sort of argue that make stupid decisions. Fifield's meant to be the guy with the pups that is meant to be tracking the whole interior of the ship. Yet he's the one that gets lost on his way back to the kind of mother, or Prometheus, basically.
Don't let me start there.
Yeah, so there's some really questionable decisions that are made throughout this film. Especially said, Vickers is playing this kind of mean-spirited corporate type, and you're like, okay, yeah, I can see what you're doing with that one. Numi Rapace's character, who's meant to be the lead one, just comes across as just a bit too, I don't know what the word is for it, fluffy. I don't know. I mean, I know there's this theme of like her beliefs, and because I choose to believe. It's meant to be like this poignant sort of part of the film, but at the end of the day, let's be honest, you've allocated all these resources, probably spent billions of trillions of dollars on this expedition across the galaxy. The people don't even know each other, so they're kind of bringing in characters who don't even know each other. There's instant antagonistic difference of opinions between the people, and then you basically say to them, like, well, we've just woken you up, this is the reason why we're here. What would you, they must have signed some premium contract in order to kind of just go willy-nilly spend XYZ amount of their years of their lives in space for what? They don't know until they get woken from cryosleep, and then they get told, oh, we've seen these kind of hieroglyphics on these walls, and we think it's a kind of map to this place, and we're going to find these things that maybe designed us. It's like, what?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
The suspension of disbelief, and then they're just like utter... So those are the things that are flawed of this film. But if you can get behind that, and you can kind of go like, okay, right, so there's a little bit of... And the writing as well, it has to be said, for me, feels like the kind of Lost series. And it's no coincidence that Damon Lindelof is one of the writers for this. It just seems to be a lot of grandiose ideas that don't really have any payoff. And there's a lot of themes running throughout Prometheus. You've got that kind of religious theme. You've got the kind of discovery of life theme. You've got, who is our gods and everything. And Susanna, as you said, like when David speaking to Holloway and, says like, we made you because we could. And then David goes like, well, wouldn't that be a disappointment? And it's like, yeah, we built you because we could, sort of thing, basically. And it's just, everyone is so unlikable in this film.
That's because everyone is so incompetent.
Sorry.
I just have to get it out. Everyone is so incompetent.
No, go for it.
They have the geologist or mapper, that gets lost. The biologist that goes, oh, so cute, look at this little beetle, what the hell was that? And it was a biologist. The pilot who apparently, goes down with the ship when there was perfectly... you could have detached the life pod. They could have done things so many different ways, but never mind that. The scientist that, I don't know if she was an archaeologist, biologist, I don't know, she was a bit of everything. But deep down, she was just a believer. And, they were so incompetent at their, in their fields, never mind anything else. That was just a joke to me. How? Why? Even the android was a bit incompetent at being a villain, because then I can't. I was almost glad. I kind of forgot that it got decapitated at the end, and I thought that was it. But no, it just kept coming. It's just, I haven't even got to the ships yet. The ending, that was just a minor rant. Just so incompetent. Sorry.
Yeah. Another thing that I think this wasn't much of a knee-jerk reaction for me. It was something that kind of obviously, I said, like percolated in the background for me. But like the ship Prometheus itself is meant to be a prequel to Alien, and the great thing about why Alien's such a masterpiece of a film is that it's like the stuff with like the kind of retro futuristic tech that they have on board. It's like this kind of 70s style of, ship mapping and everything like that. You've got these big lighting, flashing buttons and everything, but it's grimy, it's gritty. The Prometheus ship itself is like this kind of, far ahead in a light span of futuristic design. And I think Ridley Scott himself has kind of tried to defend that as well by saying, well, it's a kind of research vessel. It's kind of, personally funded by Wayland sort of thing. So it would be in that kind of realm. It would be like a far superior ship.
But it doesn't even have an airlock.
But I also do think like it kind of...
Sorry, it didn't even have an airlock. They had to open the whole shape every time anyone wanted to get in and out. What sort of design is that?
The little cargo, yeah. But I think... in that respect, I just kind of, it lost me a little bit on that as well. But, as I said, after multiple viewings and whatnot, I do like the kind of explorative nature of Prometheus, that they go down to this planet, they find this kind of installation that's built sort of thing. I love those kind of like type of sci-fi films when you have this crew and you don't really know what they're going to find sort of thing, and they find the engineers. They find the some kind of released pathogen or something. They bring their head back and try to test it, and it just explodes. As you said, Susanna, there's a lot of incompetence going through the whole crew here. But yeah.
And there's a couple of things I don't, like you said, Anthony, about the tech. It seems very far ahead of the first Alien. And okay, so if Weyland Yutani knew that all of this happened in this, because LV was at 922 as the moon to LV 426, right? Mm-hmm. So wouldn't they send someone back, like trained people back to that area to find the ship and to find the installation and everything? I mean, and plus it's still there, right? The installation's still there. So that didn't make sense to me. And also when they go on the ship and they find the room with all the canisters, on the walls there's a mural of the xenomorph. But the xenomorph isn't a thing yet because it's never been, as far as we know, unless they've been testing it, but we found out later, we'll talk more about that probably next week with Covenant, but the xenomorph isn't a thing yet at this point. So that was a little, and David seems light years ahead of Ash, for what Ash was in the first film, because Ash seemed, you can tell that something was, like something was different about him. Yeah. So David seems light years ahead when he should be a little...
An inferior model, yeah. Yeah, the timeline's a bit schlonky, I think, with this one. But as I think the main precedent was that since Alien Resurrection, I think there needed to be like a reboot of the show, of the series, and I think it was a very deliberate decision to kind of veer away from the xenomorph. Yeah, we're going to have a little nod of a head. We're going to tip the hat slightly to the fanboys and stuff like that. So you're going to have, like you said, like the Muriel that had the kind of H.R. Geiger inspired designs. You've got the biomechanical sort of nature still there. And then obviously at the very end you have the Deacon that they have to give you the kind of the money shot sort of thing in that respect by showing the Deacon to show that here's the connection, guys. But I think they could have just done more with the actual the very start of Prometheus. You have one of the engineers, presumably on Earth kind of thing, taking a sort of coconut vial sort of thing of the black goo. Is that like a test? Is that meant to be like some kind of religious kind of test for this person? Because you see the ship veering off. Do they know that that's a sacrifice? Is he sacrificing himself willingly? It's never really kind of explained. It's just meant to be like, well, this could potentially be the design of humans on Earth. Like the black goo goes into the water and the waterfall, and then you see the text arriving in the kind of DNA sort of strands. And yeah, I think that's already kind of... go on, Susanna, sorry.
No, just if that was the case, however it happened, if it was a willing sacrifice or if he was just left behind and it was just his way of saying, well, up yours or whatever, then what was the point of the cave paintings? How did the humans know that there was that the giants were the ones that created them and then knew the star system and all that? And how? Why include the cave paintings at all? It just so many plot holes I can't.
Yeah, I think there were probably like scenes, deleted scenes, or I really get the feel with Prometheus that there were sort of deleted scenes that should have maybe stayed in the film. Because there are a lot of things that happen, like we mentioned before about like Fifield and Milburn, who go into and they see that and he's his character is very scared of like seeing anything. He just wants to get out of there, but then does a kind of 180 when he sees the kind of weird snaky sort of prototype worm essentially. And I think there is meant to. I think I have sort of heard of a deleted scene where they sort of come across another sort of creature which is smaller, because when they kind of walk into the installation, you can see like one of their boots go down on the ground, and you see like a worm trying to get in, and that's obviously the worm that's going to get the black goo on it. So then it becomes this kind of weird serpentine creature. But there's meant to be, I think there's a scene where he comes across a smaller creature and his confidence is becoming to get, he's becoming more confident with approaching these specimens as such. So by the time then we get to the sea monster, I keep on calling it sea monster, it's like a little, I don't know what you call it sort of thing, but when he comes to it, then he's like, more galvanized to introduce himself to it, but still a stupid thing. I think is it trying to do a rehack back to, when Kane goes onto the ship and looks at the egg, is that their egg moment sort of thing? But yeah, I mean, I really loved that scene where it coils itself around his arm and then smashes the face, and then you see the kind of, that's a really good scene to watch visually. And this is a kind of, I think this is more a kind of style over substance type of film, that everything's very pretty to look at and everything, but ultimately it leaves more questions than answers.
Yeah, I mean, Kane
there's an alternate scene.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Susan, go ahead.
I was just saying that Kane at least really had the excuse that he didn't know what he was looking at and he was curious, etc. The biologist should know better. He was clearly displaying aggression, and he was just so enchanted when, yeah, you're right, in a few moments before he was just, let's get out of here. And no sympathy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, there is another scene or an alternate scene of the beginning where there's like there's robed engineers behind the engineer who looks like sacrifices himself, and it looks like more of a ritual type of thing. So you do get the feeling like it's a sacrifice that he is like seeding life on this planet, and we don't really ever find out, is that Earth or is that another place? So. That's kind of the impression, is that he seeded life on Earth, but then why take out humans after all that?
Yeah, it just, once again, I think there should have been some additional scenes where when David first brings the engineer to life towards the end, and he asks him a question. I think you can go online and you can actually see what he's asking for, which is essentially, how to make life, how to preserve life, and that's what Wayland's basically all about. That's the one reason why he's there, because he doesn't want to die. And that theme does actually touch into, mortality, and, when you reach a certain age, you start thinking about those type of things. So in that respect, it is the kind of, he's trying to find the fountain of youth in that respect. He thinks, but once again, there isn't really any kind of substantial data or evidence to suggest that these engineers can provide that. All they've seen so far is death. All they've seen so far is this black goo that they found in the vases. And even though David has his own agenda and his own sort of plan, and he kind of spikes Holloway's drink with just a dab of the black goo, are we meant to think that he's acting on orders from Wayland, or is he just doing his own thing? That's not really firmly established. And then it's a thinly veiled sort of plot line to kind of to keep the movie going. But Holloway, we know that Fifield's already become a monster when he returns to the ship. So you would be thinking, as scientists, you'd be like, right, there's obviously some kind of virus that we've released because we've interfered with its atmosphere. We should bring everyone into lockdown. We should, go through these things. But by that point, the movie's on a roll, I guess. So you just have to keep on going with it, with that suspension of disbelief. But yeah. Maybe I'm changing my own mind whilst doing this. I don't know. I came into it to kind of push the strengths of this film.
When you actually think about it and start, no quarantine.
I think David. Yeah. No. But I think David dropped the goo in after talking to Wayland, and Wayland told him try harder. I think when Vickers confronts him. So that's an odd choice to infect someone with this unknown substance on the ship that you're on.
I mean, from David's point of view, I think it's a great sort of like, he's just, I think, experimenting, isn't he? He's just kind of like thinking what will happen. Like does he know, like, once again, does he have this data in his, android brain that will give him some sort of, evidence to see what happens? Or is he just going, I'll just infect one of them, see how it goes, and see what happens to them?
He had a lot of knowledge. I mean, when he saw the markings or hieroglyphs or whatever, he seemed to be able to read them. He knew exactly where to press. How the hell did he learn that? He just knew.
I think it's meant to be implied that whilst they were in...
You are in this place.
No.
That first you walk in before mapping. Why didn't you wait for the probes to at least map the place? But never mind. You walk in before mapping and you find these markings. There was no archaeologist there, no linguist, no one, not even taking a notepad or taking a picture, something no curiosity whatsoever. And then you find this giant again. Oh, well, that's kind of disappointing. And you carbon dated, not even let me go there. My word. I mean, there was no... How could we, the audience, buy into it or even be in awe about what we were seeing on screen, if the characters, they were not in awe. They seemed like they didn't care. They were set on finding something that they didn't know what the hell it was they wanted to find. And everything they found along the way, they didn't seem to care. Just... Sorry, getting angry.
Yeah, I mean, it's set at Christmas, isn't it? Because Holloway goes like, I want to open my presents kind of thing. And I suppose, once again, it might have been like written in after the fact. They shoehorned it in that, exactly what you said there. Why wouldn't you kind of map the whole installation first before moving in? If it can ping life forms and stuff like that, which it does later on when Fifield and Milburn are sort of stuck inside when the storm is raging. And surely they'd just be like collecting samples. They'd be collecting this, they'd be collecting that to bring back to Prometheus to kind of study. They all act like little kids that got like the wrong present on Christmas Day. They're just all like, they've opened up their gifts and they're like, oh, I wanted a PlayStation 5, not like a kind of pair of socks kind of thing. And that's how Holloway acts. He just becomes this like grumpy, surly teenager when they don't find a living being on this installation. But you've got this whole area full up with these vases full of this organic kind of material which you would need to kind of study. But I guess then they find the head, they bring it back, and they think maybe they can get something from the head.
Like bring it to life somehow.
Yeah, electroshock therapy to stimulate the brain nerves.
Let's try and fool it into thinking that it's alive. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So I don't want to get too in the weeds on kind of the history, but in Alien, when they find the ship, they talk about the space jockey being fossilized, that it's been there a long time. Mm-hmm. But this isn't that far away. This isn't that far before the events of Alien, so it doesn't really match up. Because in Alien, it seems like an ancient ship, like that's been there for a long time, that's just been, hanging out. And now it's kind of like not that long ago. So it'll be interesting to see if we ever get a movie connecting all these, how they connect that. But the whole because I choose to believe stuff was really on the nose. Like, I think they could have done that in a more of a subtle way that was more meaningful. And the whole "it's Christmas."
Yeah, exactly.
What is it like? What?
What does that have to do with anything?
Christmas surpasses all kinds of safety and health sort of checks. It's Christmas. You just got to roll with it.
And when they get there, they say, "Well, we have 6 hours before the storm hits," and like, "Well, let's go explore this ship that we've traveled however many light years to get to, and we'll explore it in 6 hours." Like, why not wait? Like, get some sleep for 6 hours and then come back and when you have enough time to go and explore and study and but they totally set that up to have the whole storm.
Yeah.
I mean, so many missed opportunities. So they had the storm, they just arrived, they could have mapped the place. Okay, excellent opportunity for when they were mapping the place and discovering that it was a ship, etc. You could get to know the characters a lot better, each in their field, are having an argument pro or against going in and how. I mean, that would be so much more engaging, and at least for me as a viewer, and then just, let's go in, pass through all these interesting things, and then come back just in time to get hit by the storm because, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they could have done a lot more to, give the characters some depth. Mm-hmm. I think, they have once again that it's trying to sort of rehash old ground with certain characters that you've known from previous films. So as I said, like before, like the geologist and the Fifield and Milburn are basically meant to be the Brett and Parker characters. They're the ones that are going on their own. They seem to kind of have this kind of clique. You've got Vickers and Yannick, the pilot, who have this weirdly everything just comes like when he's on his little musical box thing, and he's like, "Are you an android?" Because she's so cold and aloof. And then she's like, "In my room in 5 minutes, I'll show you that I'm not an android." It's like nobody speaks like it. Just comes out of left field, out of nowhere, and you're like, and then Yannick at the end is like, you get the impression, where does this sort of self-sacrificing spirit come from? And there's two poor co-pilots that he's like, "Go on, get off, boys." Is like they're like, "Nah, we'll see this one out." What? What? No, yeah, it just beggars belief. Did they have too many characters, and they had to go like, right, well, yeah, we'll get rid of these guys this way. They'll self-sacrifice and yeah. Mm-hmm. Would have preferred like maybe 6 characters in all, get to know them a lot more. So their deaths will be more impactful. It just seems. Yeah, very inconsequential, like certain things happening for this reason, for that reason, and it's like, then move on.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of impactful
Speaking
deaths,
of getting rid of characters... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Like, ship is rolling in your direction. Why do you keep running ahead? Just please change direction, and then the other one just roll to the side. It was fine. Oh my God! It's just for the visual effects. There's no story there. We want to have this happening. So what can we do? Oh, and let's kill, the mean woman. I just was so stupid. So.
If you look at it in that kind of way as well, like Vickers is like the only sane person on this boat, right? She like in after when you have years and years, we look at the original Ghostbusters, right? And you have Walter Peck, who's from the what do you call it, the ECP or whatever it is. Like he's the only one in that film that they have like an ecto containment unit in this like firehouse. And there seems to be no checks. There seems to be like no things. He's only doing his job, right? He's in there to do his job. Vickers is there to do her job. And multiple times she kind of like is the only one that is the voice of reason. And so I thought her death was like, she's meant to be portrayed as this kind of villainous and antagonistic person. Whereas she's the only one who's there to mitigate damage, like, control. And she's there to kind of like make sure everything runs smooth and fine. And she's kind of overlooked a lot of the time from Wayland, who, I think was once again a shoehorn thing of like, father, a king has his reign, then he dies, just accept it, pass down the things to me, and I'll carry on, blah, blah, blah. But I think her death was just really...
tacky.
Yeah, just as you said, like to a visual showcase and it was like, I would have preferred to see her survive, until the next one, but I guess the writers had other plans.
Oh yeah, no. What's her name? I can't even memorize the name of the characters. She was tough, man. That surgery, and then she kept going and she kept running, and just by that point,
the amount of time
I didn't care at all. I was like, yeah, she's gonna live until the end because of course she will. But
because she chose to believe that she would survive.
Like at the very least, and they made it so hard. I want a C-section. Oh, no, this machine is not calibrated for that. Just give us a little bit to work with, please. You don't just open the belly and take a squid out and staple back in and have a shot, and then you're ready to run again. I mean, come on, give me a break. Oh.
I do like when they first, when Vickers takes Holloway and Shaw and says like, oh, I think we need to have a chat about who's actually running this operation. And then Shaw goes, you've got an auto-dock. There's only a couple of these in existence. Oh. I wonder if this will come up later in the film. Yeah. It's come on. As you said, like this film does not do subtlety very well. It's very on the nose. Like Chekhov's gun. If you see the gun there, it's going to get used later on. You see the auto-dock. Once again, I will say, they're obviously trying to find a new scene that will surpass what's gone on before, right? Mm-hmm. So when you had the kind of infamous chest-bursting scene from the original film, how do we make people more queasy? How do we make people feel like really icky? We're going to have this squid baby C-section happen. And, for the most part, I remember when I first saw it, I was kind of like grimacing, for what she's obviously going through. But then also at the same time, it was like the suspension of disbelief once again was taken out because like she's stabbing herself with these like EpiPens or medical pens or whatever it is. I think she goes through like 5 before she starts spacing out a little bit. And then literally 20 minutes later, she's jumping over... and it's just like those staples, I don't care who you are, would have ripped out and, she would have been just like crawling on the floor towards Prometheus and sort of saying like, Yannick, you know what you have to do. Just it's a lot to take in,
It is visually stunning, though. If you just put it on mute and watch, it's probably,
yeah,
but there's lots of great scenes, like lots of great landscapes and kind of set pieces, and all of that is really, there's some really, really great scenes. For the surgery scene, if you just take that scene, just like cut it out and just watch it and forget about all the problems like leading up to that, I think it is a cool scene, but it always makes me grimace when the squid baby comes out and it bursts and all that stuff goes in her stomach that's like wide up and it's like gross. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, I hope she got some disinfectant when that happened,
Yeah. The whole like, and you would think it'd be a little bit more human, right? Because it's.
Yeah, that's something I always had a problem with because it's obviously Holloway's DNA mixing with the the goo. They have their romantic time, and why would it be like a squid? I don't know. Maybe there was some kind of thing that went way over my head at that point. Maybe it was something to do with the evolutionary goo mixed with human DNA. But I do think that was a bit weird. A bit of an odd choice to make it like a little squid thing.
They needed tentacles.
And
at
the deacon's
end,
cool too. I like the deacon.
pretty much.
Yeah, when it brings the engineer in.
Well, I have to say, I liked, again, the visuals, the designs, all brilliant. Even the engineers, I thought they were really well designed. I mean, just that perfection that goes just beyond what is aesthetically pleasing. I don't know. They were very creepy in their own way. I wish I'd learned more about them, but they weren't particularly clever. And I was here thinking, why would they want to destroy us? Maybe because we kind of turned out to be too much like them. The end really, really annoyed me because on top of everything that happened, and then when David says, "Oh, there are other ships," and you go like, "Wait, what?" So if there's other ships, why would he go and try to steal the human ship? Because it was closer, maybe? I don't know. If there were other ships, why were they still there? Because we know that one was still there because something went wrong, because the virus escaped or whatever. Why were the other ones still there? Shouldn't they have communicated at some point? Lift off, whatever. And what would she expect to accomplish? My only consolation is that, she's just going to die either on the way to the ship or trying to lift off because she has no food, no medicine, no nothing. So, I hope that, it stays there. I haven't watched the sequel, so don't spoil it for me, but I just hope I don't have to see that character again.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I won't say anything to,
oh God, this is going to get worse.
So we'll leave that for the next chat sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think with Shaw's decision, she has that conversation with Yannick beforehand, and she, expresses the fact that why did they do this to us? Because, as you said, like maybe. Is this like a statement on the world we live in today that, they gave us the opportunity of life and we've just basically fettered it away by being human. So therefore they can arbitrarily exterminate us all. Like it's a bit of a reach, to kind of come up with these theories without actually getting the raw data. They have a kind of cargo bay full of the vases, and Yannick goes, you get the impression he's obviously had some military experience, and he goes, I've seen these things before. This is like a weapons of mass destruction, which was obviously a bit of a buzzword sort of thing at the time. And it's like, well, we don't know this. But once again, you're scientists. Like, where's the data? Where's the evidence to suggest this is why, they're planning to go to Earth because obviously they see the blueprint room or the hologram room that David sets up sort of thing. And we see Earth. But we're just theorizing that they're going to go to Earth. When the engineer gets in his suit and everything like that and he's about to go. Okay, yeah, we can understand that maybe they're going to Earth, but we don't really know that.
They connect a lot of dots. Yeah, and it's like Yannick, like how would he know what this installation... there's a lot of leaps that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it gets the action going, so got to roll with that.
Yeah. Trying to think what else.
Suddenly, Alien Resurrection is looking pretty good. Because I know at least it was unapologetic about the lack of science or character development involved or exposition. I mean, those holograms. I mean, come on, and the leaps of logic and everything. It's just talk about exposition. At least be honest about it. Just give us a proper info dump. Don't. I think that's even more insulting.
I was always a bit like, why when they come to like the engineering hologram room, why the flute? Like, why do you use a flute to kind of make things? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like I was expecting Oompa Loompas to kind of come walking out, sort of thing, when David started, playing with his flute, because they're so far like this is the whole thing, right? They're kind of now they're contradicting their own like writing, because they make out that these engineers are like these far superior beings, and although they've got this kind of biomechanical Geiger design for the ship itself and everything like that, a flute just seemed really out of place, and the squishy buttons and everything like that. It just felt. I mean, I know it's meant to be like an alien species, but it just felt so removed from everything else that it just kind of jarred for me a little bit. That point. But once again, another visual stunning scene with David sort of seeing the kind of hologram and seeing Earth in the middle, being able to hold it and stuff like that. But yeah, not really a fan of that bit.
Oh, that's how they know they're going to Earth, right? Because the hologram and they see the map, so they know they're going to Earth. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I guess the main disappointment is if you are going to show the kind of engineers from the first film, from the first Alien film, and you're going to sort of show their background, then do it. Take more time to kind of give, or maybe they felt like that was time enough, and they'd given the audience enough information to kind of let them know why these beings are. I don't know. I think they could have gone in a different direction, essentially. I mean, I do appreciate the fact that they tried something new, and although it didn't sit well with a lot of people, I can sometimes flutter between thinking, actually, yeah, I do understand why they made the decision. The beast is dead, so to speak, like what Ridley Scott's always kind of said. And then moving forward, I won't spoil anything for Covenant for Susanna, but yeah, and then obviously I would like a third film in this particular trilogy. If you had like Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection as like one timeline, right? And then you've got the newer versions, the Prometheus, the Covenant, and then the third film was meant to be called Paradise. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would like that. I would like it to be finalized, to be finished, because it's meant to then cycle back to the derelict ship on LV-426 that the Nostromo crew find. I don't think they're going to be able to tie up all the loose ends, and they're going to try and get this connection point to go here to make that happen in a feasible way. They probably will at some point. I think now with the TV show coming out and Romulus coming out, I think that's going to be either the green light or the red light for this third film in this particular chunk sort of thing to be finalized. Because if the show does well and Romulus does well, then obviously they're going to turn around and go like, well, yeah, okay, let's make this one. There seems to be more of a fan now show base of the Alien franchise again, so we'll see if it gets made. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. So
I have a question for both of you, because when the concept art for Blomkamp's ideas were public with bringing Sigourney Weaver back, basically retconning Alien 3 and Resurrection, bringing back Newton Hicks, and having this it was like Alien 5 it was billed as. So when that was public, I think that's when Ridley Scott stepped in and said, well, hold on a second, this is my baby, I'm going to make what eventually became Prometheus. Would you have rather seen Alien 5 or this prequel?
Oh, well, I don't know what you're talking about, just what you are describing now, and I don't remember seeing those pictures or even hearing about it at the time. But it's kind of hard to imagine anything worse than this movie. I mean, I think I would rather either watch, like, Prometheus, if there was no need to include Alien in it. If it was just on its own, scientists going up trying to find the engineers of mankind, I think that would be easier, even with all the the issues with the script and the characters and whatnot, because on top of all the flaws that the movie has, to kind of shoehorn the narrative into the alien universe. And it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the timeline. It doesn't fit the biology, the logic. It doesn't fit anything. That's why I call it fan fiction, which I have nothing against fan fiction. But I don't know. I think I would rather watch whatever else just out of curiosity, because this did not work at all for me. So.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5 film, bringing back Hicks and Newt and Bishop. I think, yeah, Susanna, as you say there, like that would it have been fan service for the greater good, or would it have been fan service because obviously these real life actors have aged. I mean, like from 1986 from the Aliens film to this was only a couple of years ago, right? So how do you explain the aging of that? How do you explain, that kind of... But I would have... obviously, I would have loved to have seen that particular film. But then also, with Prometheus and Covenant, I think there were theories that were too grandiose for them to kind of pack into a kind of 2-hour film, essentially. And I think that got away from them, ultimately. If they had have gone a certain different way with, like I said, focusing on character development for Prometheus, scaling down the amount of crew that Prometheus had to kind of focus on them, then I think that would have been a more successful film in that regard. I think with the Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5, that may have then opened up new things to discuss and talk about, and would it have just been the kind of case of getting these old IP characters in to kind of provide that fan service? So I think, in a parallel universe that Ridley Scott said, no, that's fine, this is the direction it's going to go, Neil, you've got my blessing, go ahead with it, sort of thing. We'd probably be sitting here now discussing that film and probably talking about its merits or its failings or shortcomings. And but yeah, I think it would have... I would have paid money to see that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I was just looking it up now. It looks like Sigourney Weaver was on board for Blomkamp's, because she starred in Chappie, I guess his R-rated movie.
Yeah.
So it's suggested by Blomkamp that he kind of had this idea brewing. Ridley Scott saw Chappie and kind of put the kibosh on him that, no, you won't touch it. So it's never explicitly said, but it looks like Scott stepped in and prevented it from happening, which is...
It's interesting as well with Scott at the moment, because he seems to be, they return to them Blade Runner. So he's got these, super fantastic films from his catalogue. You've got Alien, Blade Runner. They seemed like, Denis Villeneuve came back with 2049. That seems to be there seems to be a whole new universe opening up for that now. We see the same thing with Alien, with the TV show, with the Romulus film. And now he's making Gladiator 2 as well. It's he seems to be going back to these old iconic films and sort of making sequels for them. And it kind of makes me think why? Yeah. Why do that? Leave the things as... Gladiator in itself is a brilliant film, masterpiece kind of thing. There's no need for a sequel. I shudder to think that there's going to be a scene where Russell Crowe's Maximus is going to be some kind of angel in the skies, just it does... I mean, it's not looking good. He loves his biopics, like Napoleon I saw recently. And, once again, he does... Visually, he's one of the auteurs of his field. He's a great director, and he gives spectacle to audiences. I just don't think you can leave certain films for what they are, leave the iconic, films of the past as they are. Don't besmirch their status and their kind of credibility by then making these sequels that are always going to be inferior to a certain degree. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I found that Alien 5 would have retconned, so Alien 3 and Resurrection would have been a send off for Ripley and Hicks, and would have made Newt the new heroine of the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you've got the Alien Isolation game that has Ripley's daughter Amanda, and I think I've said this before that for me would be the way to go. That would be the logical way to go. Would be to have a kind of new universe with Amanda Ripley searching for her mum. I mean, you've already got like the first bit, the game. If you've played the game or know of the game of Alien Isolation, Amanda Ripley goes off because they found the black box of the Nostromo. And she goes off to this Sevastopol station to find the black box. She does, but then there's more questions there, and we haven't seen the last of Amanda Ripley as well. So whether Alien Isolation 2 is in production or if it comes out or whatnot, there seems to be a resurgence with the Alien, like Alien Dark Descent, the games anyway. At least Alien Dark Descent is a kind of tactical sort of real-time strategy sort of game where you're playing as Marines who crash land on this planet, and they have to basically get resources to get their ship up and running. But yeah, I think passing the baton down or across, or whichever way you pass the baton, I think Amanda Ripley would be the way to go. Newt would have been a great fit as well, definitely. Yeah, I mean the kind of novelizations of the books and stuff like that. You've got the Earth War series that kind of focuses on Hicks or Wilkes because of obviously infringement of the characters and whatnot. They had to change the character name, so it was Billy and Wilkes rather than Newt and Hicks. But yeah, that would have been I think that's the logical way to go, would have been focusing on the younger characters. But as we see on the Romulus, they're all going to be young cast, so yeah.
Rooting for the aliens in that one. Looks like that. It's going to be yeah. So, you haven't seen Covenant, Susanna?
No. I was so disgusted with this one. Never got around to see the next.
So, Steve, what do you think for the next one when Susanna watches it? I think Susanna, your opinion's going to be possibly even lower than Prometheus.
Oh, please don't tell me it gets worse. Oh, Jesus.
I don't know. I think I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give anything away, but I think there will be elements that you'll like, but overall, I don't think you'll hate it, but I don't think you'll love it either. I think it'll be kind of in the middle.
Because honestly, it doesn't get much worse than this. I really disliked the movie. I was in pain watching it. I could feel my brain cells just dying with just the dialogue, the leaps in logic, the interactions between the characters. So many missed opportunities. I was itching. It was like, please, just do something about it. From a narrative perspective, it was such a waste, and it wasn't for lack of budget, and it wasn't for lack of good actors. I mean, they could have done something so much better, in my opinion. And I know I sound, quite, I don't even know the word, presumptuous, or I don't know. I don't like when I get into this mindset of trying to fix the story. It's something that I do more as an exercise for my own writing, and I don't like doing that to other stories because I like to leave them alone. They are what they are. But in this case, it was pretty much every scene. It's like, why are you doing this? And it turns out that there was no reason. Things just seemed to happen, disconnected, and they kept happening. I really have an issue with these super strong characters. At least make them, superhero or gods or aliens themselves. Even just a simple insert saying that someone, info dumping or saying, oh, some of the alien DNA got into your system, so you're gonna feel some changes. Anything, it would help just get over because she would be dead like 10 times over.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because that just popped something in my head. In the Dark Horse comics, there's a sort of I can't remember the storyline of there's a couple of storylines where they introduce like royal jelly. They call it royal jelly, which is like from the aliens' DNA sort of thing. It essentially, when you ingest it, sort of thing, it makes you super strong. It makes you like go crazy. Like there's one storyline in particular that they have like these like Olympic games, and one of the runners like steroids up on the royal jelly, and he just goes bombing. He like surpasses, but he can't stop running, and he kind of just runs and splats himself against the wall because he's so like. So I think that would have been a good sort of way to go. Like, you know, maybe someone on board the Prometheus kind of knows that, you know, like someone like David, for example, who gets the black goo. Like there could have been something else that they could have got that makes them, you know, makes humans super strong, and that could have been the link for like Wayland for his like fountain of youth elixir, so to speak. So they could have done stuff like that. They could have introduced that into the mix, which I think would have been. But like as you were saying, Susanna, like I don't want to kind of like look at programs on TV or films and try as I'm going through it, editing it myself and saying that this is what I would have done, this is what I would have done here, sort of thing. And I think once again it comes down to the writing. I'm not a fan of a lot of Lindelof's stuff because I said like he introduces some great ideas, but that's all they are. It's like a theorized idea that never really pans out correctly. You know, everyone who watched Lost and, as I said like before, felt gypped at the end, felt like it was a bit of a cop-out because they introduced this thing, this cool thing, this cool thing, this cool thing. How are we going to answer this? Don't worry about it. We'll figure out later. This thing, this new thing. And that's kind of what Prometheus is as well. Like, you know, there's like all these kind of set pieces that are really interesting to look at and really interesting to see. But then the actual people that are in that particular environment do not act like people in a real life scenario. Exactly. You know, I mean, you can, all right, once again, suspension of disbelief. You can say in a horror movie, you know, when someone knocks at the door, they go running upstairs and all that kind of stuff, rather than, or when there's a scream in the house, they go running up to find out what it is, rather than calling the authorities or trying to escape. So there is a certain sort of film logic, I guess, that you have to adhere to for these things to take place and for the scene to get from point A to point B to point C. But in this one, there's just too many of them. You can forgive one or maybe two missteps or leaps in logic. But then when you have like 3 or 4 all combined in a row, then you start going, come on, guys, you need to fix this kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
And I think really Scott intended that at the beginning we talked a little bit about how I feel like Marvel, the success of that time period, it changed like the kind of the characters all have like this, you know, funny, sarcastic personality. I think also Ridley Scott wanting to connect his Blade Runner movies to this one, kind of start to meld them together. That was another thing at the time of like, oh, let's have a multiverse and let's connect everything together and it'll be great. So
I don't know why everything has to be universe these days. Why does everything have to be a shared universe of this, that, and the other? I like when you have directors that will, like I said, like Blade Runner and the Alien franchises kind of mixing together. And outside of it, when you have like the comics or when you have like novelizations kind of thing, when they do it, that's fine. Like, as you said, like, you know, the whole Star Wars thing at the moment, like they've retconned the whole the comics based on the films. They got rid of that whole universe kind of thing because it was canon and stuff like that. And they actually, the really lambasted Aliens Colonial Marines game, that's canon. That they went on this whole like hyper thing of like this is the next type of film and franchise set just after Aliens. It is canon. It's official, and it's like fans will know. Like they'll be like, nah, it's not really. I don't believe that. I don't take that. I'm saying no. So yeah, I don't know why everything needs to be like a shared universe now. Just have its own, make it its own thing. And I know why, because of the money. You know, it gets the bums on the seats and it gets more money for the studios and everything like that. But I think it needs to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like those days are starting to come to an end with the lack of success of a lot of those movies. I think we're moving away from that kind of thing. Hopefully,
yeah. Well, it's already happened with Marvel, sort of thing, you know. So everyone's just every kind of franchise, you know, it has a bubble. Like, you know, the zombie films that came out, sort of thing, way back, you the late sort of early 60s or whatever sort of thing, going into the 70s, they had these cycles. So I think there's that whole thing, isn't there? I can't remember what the technical name is for it, but like they'll say like fashion, for example, has like a 10-year cycle. Things that you like, bell bottoms might come back into in sync, like, in the next couple of years, whatever, like stuff like that. Films are the same, like themes of films, genres of films. You have like the kind of 90s thriller, sort of like the courtroom dramas that, you'll get like a slew of, and then after a certain time. And I think like with Alien Resurrection, when was that? That was 1992.
Resurrection was 97, 98.
97. Sorry, I was thinking of Alien 3. Sorry. Yeah, and then you had the Aliens versus Predator ones as well in between this sort of thing. But this is meant to be like the prequel sort of like now, and that was 2009.
I think it's 2012.
2012. So you had like a massive gap in between, we're not counting the Alien versus Predator films, but we had a massive gap between Alien Resurrection and now Prometheus. So I think, it was time. Like we needed to kind of re-enter the world of the xenomorphs and of the characters and stuff like that. And once again, as I said, like I really enjoyed the first 40 minutes of this film. I really enjoyed the explorative nature of these scientists going off to this, alien land to kind of find out when they enter the facility or the installation, and, I think the first red flag was it's breathable air down here. Let's just take off our helmets. Like, no, man, come on. I know obviously they're these like big, bulky sort of 50 style of helmet type of thing, and filmically doesn't look good if they're wearing them all the time. But yeah, I think that was the start of the bad decisions.
Just really quick before we wrap up, I noticed now that I was looking for information on Blomkamp's video or his ideas, but it looks like the new Fox, the new FX show, the Alien show, is ignoring the Prometheus timeline. So their show will just be 1 through 4, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think like once, as we said, if this third film of this particular trilogy gets made, that'll wrap things up, and then I think you're gonna have to look at the future. You can't, and everything that's kind of come before it, use that as a blueprint. But then they need to create something new. And I only hope they can.
Yeah, they have plenty of material. Just use it correctly.
Yeah. Definitely.
It'll be fun next week to talk Covenant. I'm really, really excited to see what Susanna
you guys scaring me now.
No, I think it's better than Prometheus.
Okay. At least that.
I don't think I can say anything because I know what I'm like. I'll just start spoiling things. So I'll remain my lips firmly sealed until that point.
I mean, I know about the whole thing that humans were actually the ones that creating the aliens. I know that. I don't know how they're gonna get there. Surprise me. Should be interesting.
I'll just say this, and without not spoiling anything. When I saw it in the theater, I walked out really disappointed because I had expectations that were really high, and I wanted it to be like a course correction from Prometheus. But when I came back later, and I just said, okay, I'm just going to watch this and just enjoy it for what it is, and just forget about everything and just watch it. I enjoyed it a lot more when I just was like, drop my expectations, what I wanted to happen, what I thought should happen, just like this is what it is, and I'll just watch it. And so I enjoyed it a lot more after. So.
Okay.
I will agree with Steve.
That's not very encouraging, is it?
That is hopeful. I mean, like I said, the expectations are quite low, so chances are I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. It'll be fun. It'll be a good one. I'm excited. Well, cool. It's gonna be really fun. So, in the meantime, Anthony, where can people find you?
People can find me on pagechewing.com, where there's a whole bunch of cool people talking about a whole bunch of cool things. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Horrible, which I mainly play independent horror games, but also do a couple of film reviews and TV show reviews. And and I've got some books out on Amazon. One's called Birthday Treat, and the other one's called Catbox and Other Strange Stories.
Yeah, so I'll have all those links in the description. And Susanna?
You can find me on the Page Chewing forums as well, on my YouTube channel, Den of the Weird, and on X. Yes, I'm still there. Hanging. I don't know why, but I'm still there. And you can find my books. The series is Timelessness pretty much everywhere. And I have a new book coming out in March, available for pre-order on Amazon, called Oublié.
I have my pre-order ready to go, so I'm all set. Yeah. So cool. So until next week, we'll talk to everyone soon.
Okay. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.